My name's Mark and you're listening to Headstraight. Hello you lot and welcome back. Today we're going to have a look at how you can handle setbacks without giving up. Now, when things really feel a bit unsettled, setbacks don't arrive gently. They hit heavier than you expect. You might have a day when you snap more than usual, an old habit shows up again, or you react in a way that you really thought you'd moved past. And suddenly, it's not just a bad moment. It feels like proof. Your head goes straight to, well, what's the point in this? I'm back to where I started. Maybe this was never really working. Now, this happens not because the setback is massive, but because it happened when things already felt a bit off. When you're already adjusting to change, even a small slip can feel like everything's falling apart. Now, this episode is about those moments. Not disasters, not full breakdowns, but the slips that quietly make you wonder whether all this effort actually means anything. Because setbacks don't undo change, but the way that you read them can. Now, before we go any further, let's just slow this down. Most people don't give up because things are genuinely hopeless. They give up because they look at one bad moment and decide that it means everything has failed. One off day, one reaction, one slip. And suddenly the story becomes, yeah, see, I knew that this wouldn't last. Once that story takes hold, motivation will drop really fast. Not because you're weak or lazy or not trying hard enough, but because discouragement spreads quickly when no one ever taught you how to handle it. And that's what we're working on here. Now, you need to know why setbacks feel worst at this stage. Setbacks don't feel hardest at the beginning. At the start of any change, you expect things to be messy. You know you're learning. And later on, when things feel more settled, a bad day doesn't shake you as much. But this stage, right here in the middle, this is where slips hurt the most. Because you've already put effort in. You've already changed some things. You thought you were past this bit. So when something old shows up again, it doesn't feel neutral. It feels confusing. You start thinking, I thought I was doing better than this. Why is this still happening? What's the point of all that effort? Not because the change wasn't real, but because you expected it to be finished by now. And growth doesn't work like that. And here's the expectation that trips a lot of people up. A lot of people quietly believe this. If something improves, then it should stay improved. So when an old habit pops up again, it feels like a mistake. But what's actually happening is simpler. You're using new skills in situations that don't always play fair. Stress, tiredness, pressure, awkward moments, people pushing buttons. Those things test change before it's fully settled. So an old reaction showing up doesn't mean that nothing has changed. It usually means something was challenged. And that is the big difference. So, how come one slip turns into giving up? Here's where people usually get knocked off track. The setback itself is one moment, but what really causes trouble is what happens after. That quiet voice in your head starts talking. It says things like, here we go again. I always mess this up. Nothing ever sticks with me. And when you start believing that story, everything else fades out. You stop noticing how much quicker you calm down now, how different some of your reactions actually are, and how much more aware you've become. All that you can see is the slip. That's how one moment turns into pulling away, stopping effort, or deciding that it's not worth continuing. Not because you failed, but because you gave the setback more meaning than it deserved. So this is where you need to learn to pause the story. This is the moment people rarely slow down enough to notice the gap between that didn't go well and everything is ruined. You don't need to fix the setback to stop the spiral. You just need to pause the story. Instead of asking, what does this say about me? Try asking, what actually happened here? Most of the time, the answer is boring but important. You were tired, or you were stressed. Maybe you were caught off guard, or you reacted quickly instead of carefully. Now, that's not failure. That's being human under pressure. And there's a real difference between slipping and quitting. Slipping means you did something that you didn't like in a moment that was hard. Quitting means deciding that moment defines you. Those two things are not the same, even though they can feel really similar emotionally. Slips happen inside growth. Quitting stops it. And the danger isn't the setback itself. The danger is treating it like a verdict. So let me share with you what actually helps in the moment. Now, it isn't about big strategies. It's about stopping yourself from making one moment mean everything. When something slips, try this sequence. First, just simply name it. Say to yourself something like, that wasn't how I wanted to handle it. Nothing dramatic, no judgment. Second, ground it in reality. Say to yourself, this happened on a tired, stressful, or an awkward day. And third, limit what it's allowed to mean. Tell yourself, this is one moment, not the whole story. And that's it. You're not fixing anything yet. You're just stopping the damage from spreading. Now, this is really important. You need to stay in the process. Progress doesn't come from never slipping. It comes from slipping, not panicking, and staying in the process anyway. Every time you respond to a setback without tearing yourself down, you build something steadier than motivation. You build trust with yourself. And that's what keeps going when things get really hard. So, as we bring this episode to a close, I just want to let you know that setbacks are not the end. If you've had a setback recently, it doesn't mean that you're back at the beginning. It means that you hit pressure, and pressure reveals weak spots whilst things are still settling. That's not the end of growth. It's actually part of it. In the next episode, we'll take a look at how to tell whether you're actually still moving forwards, especially when progress has gone quiet and you're not getting obvious signs anymore. Because growth doesn't always feel like growth. And learning how to spot it is what keeps you grounded when the confidence fades. So, are you up for it? Of course you are.